Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are live, and I managed to execute that intro so well. How smooth was that? It's almost like I know what I'm doing. Um, I don't. Spoiler alert. Anyways, I am Adam. This is Highly Articulated, and today we're going to talk about toys. And I wanted to first, wish everybody a happy holidays. We're only a few days away from Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you don't, I hope that you're still getting, the good, the sort of good vibes and the good energy and the. I love Christmas. I love Christmas. I love Christmas time. For me, Christmas is sort of that time of the year that represents, caring and compassion and generosity and sort of all these good things that I love. And so I'm always just in a good mood around Christmas time. I'm always very, very busy around Christmas time, but very, very happy that it is the holiday season, and I am so swamped with stuff that I need to do. Today I was making my list of sort of videos that I need to finish. Now, this isn't like, these aren't super important. I a YouTube channel is not my number one priority. However, you're watching me on my YouTube channel, so it's relevant to you guys. I'm planning out my next couple of weeks, because I am going to be away. I go away on the 29th till sort of mid-January, and just my schedule from now until like April 1st is pretty chock-a-block full of stuff. So I was working on all the videos that I gotta get finished, and by that I mean unboxing videos, because I got to do my top 10 of 2024. I'm gonna do most anticipated of 2025. I might do that live when I get back, though, so I'm kind of, that one might get bumped. But I've got to record and edit a couple more videos. I'm still sitting on like a stack of figures that I need to open, because I want to sort of have them in consideration for best of 2024. I counted my best of list so far, and I think it's at like 27. So I don't know how I'm going to narrow it down to 10, let alone list them in an appropriate order. Last year there was a clear number one for me. It was, of course, Pale from Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. And this year I don't have a clear number one. I'll be sort of working my way through it as I work through the figures. I'm just sort of looking around my office, looking at all the different figures that I have sort of in on the long list. By the time I sit down to do the video, my hope is that I will have it narrowed down to 20. But that being said, my Monster Force Kilorg is supposed to arrive like tomorrow, so there might be more stuff that gets sort of added into the mix, but we will see. And then of course, with it getting closer and closer to March 1st, of course I have the Space Zombies from Mars stuff going on. So I'm trying to map out all the Instagram posts for all of the reveals of all of the renders that we've got. And I'm trying to get the Kickstarter page ready to go. And I'm trying to get everything sort of lined up. and trying to sort of make it so that when I go away on vacation, I can actually take 2 weeks away from everything. It's not going to happen. There's certain things that I still have to sort of do on a daily basis. But it'll be nice to get away. It'll be nice to get away. I'm not saying I'm not going to do any live videos, but if you don't see me, from the 29th to the 15th or whatever it is, you'll know why. I am going to try to record a few things and sort of still, have this, at least the Sunday slot filled with a video that I'll probably do as like a live premiere, and I'll try to be in the chat and stuff like that. But anyway, let's all take a deep breath. Let's relax. Let's enjoy the next few days. The chat is already going pretty good here. John from the Collecting Brothers is here. Thanos Copter, Rape has Payne's toy samples. Nolan is here right off the jump, so we can get right into it. Larry's Geeky World, Video Power Gaming, Patex Alonso, Speaking Moistly, Gabriel. Am I pronouncing that wrong or correctly? I can't pronounce it multiple ways. Is it pronounced Gabriel? That'll be my question. Is it pronounced Gabriel? Mr. Backtastic, happy birthday to my buddy David Bax. I always thought that kids that had a birthday this close to Christmas always kind of got a bit of a raw deal. Thanos says it's not pale again. It's not. It couldn't be. I 100% thought to myself, can I justify putting the Gladiator Wave Pale as my number one figure of 2024? No, I got to give somebody else a chance, because I know that in 2025, when the translucent Force Ghost Pale comes out, he's going to be number one. So I don't want to give it a Pale every single year. So Larry's Geeky World says, I won't be doing a list for this year. I really didn't get much for 2024. Okay, here's a funny thing. I thought I didn't have that much for 2024, and then I started going through the list, and I started going back through videos and all that kind of stuff. And I got, I cut back, but I still got a lot of stuff. So, Patex Alonso, when will be the next Monkey Business? Next Sunday. So I leave on Sunday morning, but Monkey Business will be on Sunday. It will not be live. We're pre-recording it, and so it'll be like, we'll set it up as a live premiere, and Brick and maybe Jason will be in the chat. I can't guarantee that because I don't want to speak for them, but I won't be in the chat. I believe I will be on an airplane at that very moment that the video would go live. So Wi-Fi in planes is getting better. I just didn't think it was good enough to do a live video. So let's see. Brick something is here as well. Good to have you, buddy. All right, and we are caught up. That's remarkable that I managed to catch up that quickly. Okay, let's get into it. Not a ton of news this week, to be perfectly honest, and so this might be a short video. This is, as I said, it's the holiday time, so it's kind of one of those times where like there's a lot going on, but there's also kind of nothing going on. We're wrapping presents, we're watching Christmas movies, we're making our New Year's resolutions. But as far as toy releases and toy news and stuff like that, there's not a ton going on. So without further ado, let's get into the little things that have come up. It's Storm Collectibles, who sort of is very, very well known for their, what they've called, I think typically called them sort of 110 or 112 figures that have been overscaled. Are doing the Storm Arena line. Now, this was a line that was announced at San Diego Comic-Con 2024. They had 2 Street Fighter figures, as well as a figure from this IP, Baki Hanma, which is not one that I'm familiar with. I don't really know anything about it. That figure looked pretty cool though. But they just sort of made an announcement of the IPs that are within this sort of arena, and that's it. Thanos says, "Cool to see Darkstalkers on this list." It's really cool to see Darkstalkers on this list. I think I've had Darkstalkers whenever I've talked about lines that I would like to see somebody make, and Darkstalkers has been on my list. I think the designs from Darkstalkers are phenomenal. I think there's a brand that did like 1 or 2 Darkstalkers figures, but they again were those sort of like 7-inch, slightly oversized ones. And they did, 2 of them or whatever. And I think they were like $100 a piece or something like that, which is not really something that I would be interested in, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they kind of scale and price me out. So the fact that Darkstalkers is going to be done in the Storm Arena line is fantastic. So if anybody's not aware of what Storm Arena is, basically Storm Collectibles sort of, I think as a somewhat of a reaction to the success of the Jada Street Fighter line, decided to look at the scale of their figures and do, a truer, I guess, 1/12 scale figure. Or a 6-inch scaled figure, if that makes more sense. When I say 6-inch scale, what I typically mean is like a Hasbro 6-inch scale. And I think, I think this is a smart move because it's going to be a slightly better price point. It's going to be scaled with other things that, Capcom, you look at the Marvel versus X-Men, or Street Fighter versus X-Men, or whatever it is. I don't even know. I don't play any video games, so I don't even know the names of the Darkstalker characters. But here is a picture from Reddit. I don't know whose picture this is. I just, Google image search Darkstalkers. And this is sort of what you have to work with, right? So Darkstalkers, for anybody that doesn't know, was a sort of a player versus player fighter game, and you pick different monsters and stuff like that, and they had sort of characterized caricatures of these monsters. So there's he's not on here, but there's a Dracula, there's the mummy, there's the werewolf, there's the sort of samurai spirit guy, there's a yeti, there's the succubus, there's a cat lady, and so on and so forth. There's the merman there. I want all of these. Like, these are 100% sort of in my lane. They're sort of, cartoony and over the top, and the scales are all over the place. You have small characters. You have like the mummy is like gigantic. He was huge. And I remember playing this game a little bit and just, and I always just wanted to play this one because the character designs were so cool. I don't know the names of like literally a single character. So when Thanos Copter says hoping for Cienko, I don't even know which one that is. So I hope you get it, because that means I'll get it too. And then I'll probably learn the names better because of this toy line. Let's see. Brick said Storm Collectibles also has Darkstalkers just in their normal huge size. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like they just don't scale well with things that aren't Storm Collectibles. And as by extension, I just don't. I haven't collected Storm Collectibles because they kind of have their own thing going on. So, Gabriel says either is fine. Okay. But that doesn't answer my question. Yeah, I mean, I hope we get all these characters. And like I said, I love the scale. I love the sort of over the top caricatures that these sort of represent. I'm loving Monster Force, but that's sort of it's a little bit of a subdued take on all of those monsters. The Invisible Man is a soldier who is invisible, but like his clothing makes him visible. The Kilowog is a werewolf, but there's a few other characters that sort of have hands and heads that are werewolf-like, but otherwise they're human-sized. The Dracula is very human looking apart from complexion, and so are like the sort of undead characters and stuff like that. So I'm really, really hoping that with this line, we get a bunch of different scales. Like, I hope that what we get from this is what Jada has done with Street Fighter, basically, but just with like monsters. And I hope they're cool figures, because like I'm looking at this image, and I'm kind of like, okay, which ones wouldn't I buy? And the answer is none of them. I'd be on board for all of these characters, and I know who zero of them are. No Chewing says, I'm selling my Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat figures. I only have a few, but they just aren't my go-to toys. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's, as our collections, as our tastes ebb and flow and our collections kind of grow and shrink, we have to sort of figure out what we want. I genuinely don't have room for a Darkstalkers line. But given the fact that I've said, if they make a Darkstalkers line, I'd be into it. And now they're saying we're doing Darkstalkers, and I'm like, I think I'm into it. So, I'm just really, really excited about these. Let's move on. You guys watching Daima? Anybody watching Dragon Ball Daima? I'm really enjoying Daima. I know that it's probably not for everyone. As much as everybody sort of said, like, GT, people don't like GT. Daima feels a lot like GT. I'll be perfectly honest. It feels like there's a small group of people flying around in a ship on an adventure, trying to find, Dragon Balls in another dimension. It feels a lot like GT, including there being small Gokus. And the small Goku, the newest small Goku that they have shared, is of course this one. So this is the Super Saiyan Son Goku Mini from Daima. This is a P Bandai exclusive. This was announced this was sort of announced a minute ago. It went up for pre-orders December 2nd. I just didn't sort of mention it, just because of other things that I was talking about, stuff like that. At a price point of $35, which is super, super reasonable. This figure looks cool. I'm digging the little mini Daima figures. Price point wise, I think 35 is about where they need to be, given that you can get, I think this guy was like $35, and I think you get a lot of figure with Tanjiro, and I don't know that you necessarily get as much with these $35 Daima figures. But this is really just a segue into this guy. So the kind of big bad from Daima is, of course, King Goma. And I want this, but I don't want to spend $75. I just don't see how this particular figure, at 4 inches tall or whatever, really warrants this price point. I don't know. So I want this guy, but I'm not entirely sure that I'm convinced that he needs to be a $75 figure. I think if you're sort of into Daima and you've bought the other like 4 or 5 figures, this might be one that you kind of need for your collection. But I also think that given the price point for like Piccolo, this seems oddly high. But that's just my opinion. You do get some cool extra parts. So you get some of the staff for Goku. So you get the extended staff, you get the spinning staff, you get the sort of swinging bent staff with the little motion sort of thing on it, I think, or at least that was sort of what I could glean from the description and stuff down here. But I can't even. Ray Paz says next week on Highly Articulated, Adam buys King Goma. I don't know if I'm going to, for a couple of reasons. It's a P Bandai exclusive, which means US only. I can't actually order this to Canada, so if I did, I'd have to have it shipped to somebody else. But yeah, I lost my cactus. Says 75 for that is insane. I think it is too. I think it should be like 50, 55 bucks, somewhere around there. But that's just my opinion. They can sell their wares for whatever they want. It just doesn't mean that everybody's going to buy it. And I also think that, given that most of the other Dyma figures are 35 bucks, this seems like a bit of a stretch. But there was no AWOC news at the beginning. I will be mentioning Spiro at the end, but nothing from the beginning. Gabrielle, okay, good to know. I will try to remember that going forward. Thanos Copter says, I'm digging Dyma, but I don't buy this guy as the big bad. Yeah, I mean, I get why he's the big bad. Again, at $75, I just don't think he's not a big bad. He's a little bad, and I don't think there's been enough to sort of make me need this character either. I want the other characters, the new characters that they've done. And now I can't remember the name, which is ironic because if you've watched the show, you know that Goku can never pronounce his name. But like, there's sort of two new characters that are traveling with Goku, and I would buy those characters before I would buy King Goma. But anyway, do AWOC characters celebrate winter holidays? I don't know. It's a very good question. Those staff effects look cool, though. They do. That's where I think they try to get you, to be honest. I think they try to get you to buy extra stuff to go with your Goku. I think they're leveraging Goku's popularity and trying to get you to pay for this. But here's the weird thing. Like, when they're pricing those other figures at 35 bucks, I'd rather pay 40 bucks for those and then see this guy be, 40 bucks as well, like, which sounds weird, but it's kind of like, I would rather see there be sort of, more profit somewhere else so that you could get less profit on another thing. It's a different strategy, right? Like, if you kind of do the math and sort of break it down and go, okay, if I get all 5 or 6 or however many Diamond characters they've released through SH Figuarts, what am I paying like per character? Because that feels a little bit more like what you're looking at. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. It's like from a certain point of view, right? I lost my cactus says for $75, a figure has to have a certain amount of mass if it's plastic, or it needs to be some special material or have insane paint apps. That finish is really plain. No, basically nothing about Dragon Ball Z. When you put DBZ, that means Dragon Ball Z. This isn't Dragon Ball Z. This is Dragon Ball Daima. But I get what you're meaning. And I kind of agree. What I will push back a little bit on is when you mention that it has to have more plastic. More plastic doesn't really change the price cost-wise of a figure. Just so you know. I don't know if you knew that. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. But yeah, the actual plastic cost of a figure, if it's 3 inches or 6 inches, it doesn't like double the cost of production. It really doesn't change the price at all, believe it or not. And tooling wise, you're probably not much difference tooling cost either. So I've heard that before. Like, I've heard multiple people say like, oh, this figure's too small to be this price point compared to another figure in a wave or in a line or what have you. But really doesn't make a difference. Or it typically doesn't make a difference. I guess there's probably a model in which it might, but that's if you're doing sort of one-off figures. So if you're doing waves, anyway, we won't get into that. That'll be more of a conversation when we are in full-on Space Zombies from Mars Kickstarter mode. Let's see. Thanos says, I do kind of want the old Namekian. I want sort of all the Namekians. No AWOC Wednesday since 1 month on the Kickstarter. There's been updates on the Kickstarter page. So I'm not sure what you're sort of suggesting there. SH Figure Arts pricing is just hurtful outside of main characters they know will sell. Yeah, and they seem to have sort of changed the model where you can get the main characters for cheaper, and then the sort of deeper cuts have gotten more expensive, which I don't know. I guess if that's working for them, that's great. But it also kind of makes it, they're kind of disincentivizing me to buy Kingoma. But that's their prerogative. I definitely like to know if the Wave 1 Kickstarter will still hit in March. Wave 1 of the AWOC stuff, no, it will not. Gady's Toy says, SH Figure Arts is expensive, but at least you get great paint and articulation. This is a brick. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, what you're really sort of getting with this figure is a bunch of face sculpts. Because yeah, you don't like, this is a guy that just doesn't even really move around that much. He just hangs out and sort of tells other people what to do. We haven't seen him fight. We haven't seen him sort of do anything besides like make faces, which is fine, but it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that there's going to be as much interest in this figure as a lot of other characters they could have done or maybe should have done. Let's see. And Brooke says Patek Alonso is right. There hasn't been any news, and I've been super busy, so I haven't done the Wednesday post since Legion's Con. Oh, okay. Like you said, Brick, there hasn't really been any news. It's we're sort of in a funny like holding pattern where we're waiting on certain stuff to be done. All the we could talk. We'll talk about this more next week. But yeah, we're kind of certain steps are done, and now we're just sort of waiting for sort of the next step to happen. And Justin says, is this the guy from the new Dragon Ball series? Yes, he is. Let's see. Yeah, so that's Kingoma, $75. I'll wait. We'll see. All right, next piece of news. This comes to us from Toy Habits. So this is from the Toy Habits website. They have an anonymous source who has given them some insider information as to the first two waves of the Masters of the Universe Thundercats crossovers that, again, was announced at San Diego Comic-Con 2024. It was announced that it was happening, but sort of no more details. So Toy Habits was able to get some information, and they have now confirmed Wave 1 and Wave 2. Wave 1 will be Lion-O, Cheetara, and Thunder Battle Cat. Wave 2 will be He-Man, Panthro, and Tigra. I am super excited about these figures. I don't often, talk about speculation type stuff. But I think their sources are pretty good on this. And I also don't necessarily always like to, talk about news when it's sort of in this stage where, the crossover has been announced, but the waves themselves haven't been announced. We haven't seen any reveals or any renders or anything like that. I also don't love their website with all the pop-ups and ads and stuff like that. So I'm pulling this down. But I am personally super, super excited to get Thundercats in that Motu form function, with I hope it's similar to what they did with the Ninja Turtles. I can only assume it will be. I hope they go less Turtles of Grayskull and more Thundercats with some He-Man mixed in, to be perfectly honest. I don't love the design direction with Turtles of Grayskull personally. I know that there's people that are really into it, and that's great, and I'm happy that they're getting them. Those figures look amazing. That merman is if I was going to buy something from that line, I would buy that Merman for sure, because that thing looks phenomenal. But the Thundercats crossover is rad. If the price point is good, my kids, especially like the 2-year-old, loves Thundercats. He plays with the Super 7 Thundercats, but it would be nice to have something that he could play with, and I'm less worried about. The Thundercats Super 7 Ultimates are mine. He gets to play with them. I could buy this for him and we could play together. That's sort of where my head's at with this this crossover. And right out of the gate, you effectively get most of the Thundercats. So the first 2 waves, having 4 of the of the series season 1 team is phenomenal. The Thunder Battle Cat to me is super intriguing. I'm really, really excited to see what they do, with Battle Cat as a, humanoid anthropomorphized cat. I'm very curious to see what they do with He-Man as well. Do they make He-Man a cat? Do they make He-Man sort of fit into the Thundercats the way that they did, with the Turtles, where we get sort of new, different versions of He-Man? I don't know. I'm excited to see it. I'm very, very curious to see where they go with it, which is part of the reason that, like, they've confirmed the characters in the waves, but they haven't confirmed, what they're going to look like. So I'm going to leave that part up till later, and we will definitely talk about that a lot more, when we get there. But the thought of, and I know that Super 7 is basically doing this as well, which is weird. It seems like the timing is really odd. But I'm intrigued by this. I'm intrigued by this for a few reasons. We're already collecting the origins, so they would fit in perfectly. The idea that it might not be sort of a one-to-one from like the classic designs, that we might get some sort of update or sort of a crossover. Maybe Lion-O is sort of a He-Man type. Maybe Cheetara is the sort of She-Ra type or a Teela type. I don't know, and I'm very sort of curious to see what we get. We could get Mum-Ra as a Skeletor, and there's not much you'd have to do to sort of make that connection, right? To bridge that gap. So I'm pretty keen on getting these. But yeah, let me see what's going on in the chat here. Let's see. Thanos is curious to see how these are going to turn out. Me too. I think they'll be good. I mean, I think they'll be cool. And whether or not the design direction that they go with the line is something that I'm into, kind of remains to be seen. But I'm not really that worried about that, because even if I don't love what they do with them, if they go Turtles of Grayskull, I'll still probably pick up a few just because it's Thundercats, and I'll be excited for it. So, Gatey's Toy says skip the Turtles mashup, but this I'm interested in. Very complimentary lines. Yes, I agree. I think that's the Turtles. We kind of already have Turtles in that size and in that sort of form. And we have we have it's up above there. We got the Turtle Van and sort of all the original Turtles, the re-released versions. I didn't necessarily need Turtles to cross over with Motu, but to get Thundercats crossover with Motu, I don't have, because Motu Origins and Super 7 Ultimates don't really mix scale wise. So Billionaire says happy holidays. This line is going to be crazy. I hope so. Gabrielle says, so these aren't going to be mashups necessarily. I don't think anybody knows. That's the thing, is like it's still not been confirmed whether they're going to be mashups or whether they're going to be Thundercats in that Motu Origin size. I'm hoping for the latter, but if they are mashups, I'm still kind of curious because I think, if you take He-Man and you put him next to Lion-O, it's still gonna kind of work. But we'll see. We'll see. There hasn't been anything confirmed, and that's like I said, that's where I'm sort of somewhat reluctant to speculate, because I don't want to say something and then people go like, oh yeah, it's going to be mashups. Like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm just happy that it's happening. So, JMax77 says probably Lino with a blonde He-Man Michelangelo wig. That would be wrong. That would be terrible. But I could see Lino with like a blonde, like instead of red hair, having like blonde hair. That would be super weird too. But I could sort of see them going that route. I genuinely hope they don't. I genuinely hope that they're just reimaginings maybe of the Thundercats, but and Toy Connection says the good thing about Origin Scale Thundercats is it can scale well with the 80s Motu, even if you don't do Origin. So there's that. I agree. I think there's a lot of people that still have, their original vintage 80s Masters of the Universe figures. And I think to get these figures in that scale is perfect. The old Thundercats figures scale pretty well, but not perfectly. The old Thundercats also have a lot of those weird gimmicky sort of action. Lion-O right here. Do I have a? Yeah, I do. I actually have an Origins figure. It's not a vintage figure; it's an Origins figure. But sort of just for reference, that's Origins scale or vintage Masters of the Universe scale with sort of the vintage, Thundercat scale. So they're not exactly the same, but they still kind of they play nice. But a lot of the Thundercats have like weird, motion. So he's got his little thing in his back, and I think all of them have that. Or at least most of them have that. So there's Mumra, swings both arms like he's running away. And I don't like that. I would rather have, I'd rather have a figure that you can pose and move and has a little bit more articulation. So, yeah. So I agree. I mean, I think this is great. And I think for people that, are fans of the two lines, I think this is more likely to happen than Masters of the Universe characters happening in the Thundercat scale. So, everybody wins. Speaking Moistly says He-Man would kick Lion-O's ass. I don't know. That'd be an interesting one. We don't. I always thought that was, when people are comparing, different heroes or different things like that, you're not necessarily comparing apples to apples because you don't know how strong everybody else is. So it's a context thing, right? Maybe everybody on Eternia is weaker than everybody on Third Earth. So by extension, the guy that's like a little stronger, you know what I mean? Anyway, I digress. It's always funny to me when people go like, oh, this guy would beat up this guy. It's like, well, maybe, I don't know. You'd have to sort of see them, pitted against each other to really know. But Katie's Toy says, Lion-O is style and abs window over substance. He-Man would wipe the floor with him. All right, so there's a bit of a consensus in the chat here. Gabrielle says, I'm hoping for a jacked Snarf like Turtles of Grayskull Splinter. That would be rad. That would be so good. That's such a good idea. Just to see Snarf and Snarfer being like this like tag team of just like absolute monsters that just crush everybody. Snarf versus Beastman would be a funny mashup, or a matchup, not mashup. Sorry. A blonde was a prerequisite for being leader. So yeah, maybe a blonde Lion-O we could see. Optimus is only blonde when you add a wig. No, it's under his helmet. Little known fact, Ken. Maybe you should do your research. Optimus Prime was in fact blonde. Katie's Toys is correct. Hey, what's going on? Michael Casper is here. Good to have you. And he says Scapular would beat up everyone. Nah, I don't know. Scapular. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. He would pit them against each other, let them sort of tire each other out, and then he'd get in there. Yeah, Ken. I'm sure there's a Wikipedia page or like some videos on YouTube that you could like look up that could tell you more about Optimus Prime. But yeah, true fact, he was blonde under the helmet. I always thought of it as that helmet. I don't know why. I knew he was a robot, but for some reason I always thought he had a helmet on. That's just his head. Or is it? Too bad, Snarf. Too Snarfer. I do like the idea of Bebop and Rocksteady as Too Bad. I don't know that I would like a Snarf and Snarfer as a two Snarf. Bad Snarf. Snarf bad. I don't know. Anyways. Okay, I said I said it was going to be a short video because I didn't have that much to talk about. We're still on track for that. I said that there will be a little bit of Spiro news. The Spiro news isn't really news. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's not really news. I was just going to point out that the warehouse sort of clear out sale is still on. You will not get your figures by Christmas. I will tell you that right now. If you order today, there is absolutely no way you will get your figures by Christmas. However, you will get them soon. I said that when I go on vacation, there's some work that I will still be doing every day. I will still be pushing orders through for the Spiro Toys website. So, if you order while I'm on holidays, don't worry. I will still be, getting your orders to you as quickly as I can. Just quick note on Spiro Toys. The fulfillment warehouse is running low on some things, and in fact, it's actually sold out of a couple items. So if your order doesn't ship right away, it's because the items in your order may be on their way to the fulfillment warehouse. So just a sort of housekeeping heads up. There is a little bit of a delay on some orders just for that reason. So, but the pricing is still fantastic. There's lots of great deals to be had there, and go buy some stuff. Make room for the Kickstarter stuff that will be arriving in 2025. I lost my cactus. Is there a revised estimate for Kickstarter Wave 1? It's summer 2025 right now. I don't know exactly when. The estimating pre-order deliveries when you're looking at sort of from design to sort of tooling to testing to production is really hard because there's a whole bunch of steps that have to happen. There's a whole bunch of milestone markers, and if there's any delay in any of those, it's like a domino effect, and it kind of knocks on the rest. So production is progressing, and I don't mean production of like the actual figures yet, but like tooling and stuff is getting done, and the designs are pretty much done. And the brawlers, the reptiles are going to be the first ones that ship. So stay tuned for more news. But a lot of times, there just isn't any news, and so it's sort of we would just be repeating what we said last time, sort of thing. So I've said that with Space Zombies from Mars, one of the things that I really want to do is also use the process as a way to like kind of illuminate the process a little bit, and sort of shed some light on how these steps all work and which steps have to be done before certain other steps can be done, and help toy collectors kind of understand the whole process, and sort of understand what a delay in sort of one thing means to like the next step or to other figures in a wave or something like that. Because there's a lot, for lack of sort of a better explanation, and sort of forgive the pun, there's a lot of moving parts And so when we're sort of sitting at our desks doing the designs or sort of mapping out the schedule, we can't account for the factory. We can't account for shutdowns. We can't account for, other delays. Really, the only guaranteed date, and I think this is true of all, at least, everybody that I've talked to that's making toys. The only guaranteed date that you really ever get is like the factory exit date. And the factory exit date is effectively like the day that the toys will be ready to go on a boat or a truck or whatever, wherever they're going. Like basically the day that the factory has your pallets of toys sitting ready to be picked up from them. Before that, there's a lot of back and forth, and it's like, okay, this step is done. Do you want us to move on to this step? There's also payment involved. So like, there's different steps that have, payment, and you got to like prepay for certain things. And then when you prepay, that's what sort of gets you in the queue for them to complete that step. And, because it's manufacturing, and a lot of this is in China, they can send you an email on a Monday. You don't technically get it till like, Monday afternoon or evening or whatever, just because of the time change. And then when you reply, they don't get it till, Tuesday or Wednesday, or like however it kind of shakes out. So there's also weird time zone things where communication is a little bit harder, and it doesn't, it's if you get your phone out and sort of text your buddy in town, you can have a whole conversation back and forth. Conversations don't work like that with factories. You send an email, and then it's sort of 2 days each sort of email that has to go. Maybe a day if it's quick, if you get it early and you can sort of get it back to them soon. But yeah, it just takes time. And anybody that makes toys will tell you the same thing. I don't think anybody's sort of cracked the code and can sort of sit down and design a figure and have it pumped out super, super quickly. It just doesn't work that way. So, and I lost my cactus since personally, I really enjoy all the educational side of how things are put together. I do too. And I'll be perfectly honest and totally transparent. Like part of the reason that I work for Spiro, and part of the way that I sort of ended up, in the process of, being part owner of a toy line with Arlen and Ira, is that I was just fascinated by how toys were made, and sort of the process, and so I was always asking the questions, and I always wanted to learn more, and I always wanted to understand more. And now by extension, I just have a whole bunch of knowledge that it isn't common knowledge, but it's out there. And if you ask, there's people that have the information, but nobody's really out there sharing it. And so I am, I'm kind of motivated to like share that information with people, because I think it's important. And I think if toy collectors sort of understand the back end a little bit more, they might appreciate, how much work, is put into some of these. So, Jay Wright says, totally transparent was my band's name in high school. That was my favorite band. I didn't know you were in that band. But yeah, it's transparency is important. I think it's important. And it also makes for cool figures. And speaking of Spiro Toys, Derek is here. What's going on, Derek? Good to have you, buddy. Hope you're having a chill Sunday. Hope you're all ready for Christmas. Let's see here. And there was a few more. Toy Connections, who, if you don't know Toy Connections, go subscribe to his channel, but also check out Delta 17, which is a great O-ring figure line that he is involved in. Says the boat timing itself gets tricky with how long it takes to get across the water. Absolutely. And if you pick the wrong port and they go on strike, or if there's a boat crashes in a canal or whatever, like you just can't predict that stuff. And then Chinese New Year can bungle up the schedule too, when factories go full shutdown. And people think, oh, it's Chinese New Year, they'll be shut down for like a couple of days. The full shutdown is like a month. The partial shutdown is like 6 weeks. So there's 6 weeks in China where virtually nothing gets done. Let's see. And Ken says, I pick Adam's brain when I get stuck. I go plastic, and he goes, yes, Ken, here's the 16 different types. I'm not a plastic expert, okay? Don't put that on me. I've never claimed to be a plastic expert. But I'm fascinated by plastics, and I am trying to learn as much as I can about plastic. Because there's different types of plastic, there's different durometers of plastic. I knew about durometers of plastic from skateboard wheels, but if you never skateboarded and you've never made toys, then durometer is potentially a word that you don't even know exists. But durometer just means the hardness of the plastic. Anyways. Oh, I didn't mean to click on that one, but this is a big thing. Brick Something says, not to mention that things are potentially going to get extra unstable and unpredictable with international trade and business come 2025. Yeah, don't get me started on that. As a Canadian, that is a massive concern. And I will get back to you guys, after January 12th. I lost my character says, start practicing your how it's made narrator voice. I really don't like listening to my voice. I find my voice irritating. So I'm always shocked when people, when you guys are here listening to me. Toy Connection says, here's one for you. Do they use durometer to measure ABS too? I have only heard it used for PVC, but maybe it's because I didn't have those convos yet on ABS. So durometer is, okay, so there's durometer and there's another word, and I always forget what the other word is. But and again, like I said, I'm not an expert. I think they're interchangeable, but the words mean a different thing. So the durometer is the hardness, but there's another word that basically means the rigidity. And so I think that's the one that typically you hear with ABS, if I'm not mistaken. And I can't remember what it is because toy makers use it. And I've not been a toy maker. Well, technically, I'm still not a toy maker. We haven't made any toys. But it was I get lessons from Arlen. Arlen knows a lot of that stuff too. So I'm still learning, but I'm enjoying sort of sharing what I'm learning and enjoying the process of sort of absorbing all this knowledge is really fun for me. And for a lot of people, it's super boring. For a lot of people, when you sort of hear about, ABS and PVC and durometer and whatever the other word is, and I cannot remember. Ken, what's the other word? There's another word. There's like a word that specifically you see in like toy maker chats all the time. I don't know what it is. And I'm gonna look it up because it's driving me crazy if somebody doesn't type it in the chat. But it's basically the durability or shore. That's what it is. The shore, which is the hardness, is what you hear with ABS. And I don't really know the difference. I think it's just it's a way that it's sort of like measured. But so yeah, you get durometer, you get shore, hardness. Which is, rigidity and hardness. I don't know the exact definitions of like what the big difference is. That's why I'm sort of like, what? And that's where it has something to do with the thickness and the hardness. And it's, anyways, plastic is fun. Plastic is fun. And there's a whole lexicon that goes with it. And I'm, yeah, and so yeah, Ken saying I think durometer equals elasticity, flexibility. Yeah. It's like how much does it move is kind of what durometer is somewhat related to. And shore is more related to strength, I think. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a whole video on plastic, a crash course in plastic. Oh man, that would be cool. I don't think I have the ability to do that, but maybe I know people that do. Maybe I can have them on. Anyway, that's for 2025. For now, as I said, go get your Spiro toys. But don't spend too much, because come March 1st, you're gonna want to order some Space Zombies from Mars. And I Lost My Cactuses. I love that kind of stuff. Craftsman makes good videos on it. Like how it's made, and to a lesser extent, like it's not exactly like how it's made, but for like nerds, the Adam Savage Tested YouTube channel is fantastic for stuff like that, where I've learned a lot about a lot that I didn't know I needed to know or wanted to know from him, or from videos that I've watched of his. So if you're into that stuff, I Lost My Cactus, I'm sure you subscribed to Tested. But I found that even like I'll watch one of his videos and he'll have a guest, or he'll talk about something, or he'll visit somebody, and by extension, I'll go down a rabbit hole of like, I know how to make, foam cosplay stuff. I'm not about to do it because I don't have, the space for it and stuff. But watching like how they weld foam, and how they cut it, and how they map it, and all that kind of stuff, I was like, I'm totally going to get into this. I didn't, but it's easy to sort of fall down those rabbit holes. The only rabbit hole I plan to fall down is the toy making rabbit hole. So I will keep that in mind. I will try to make as many notes as I can, and I will try to do as many videos as I can. As I said, through the process with the Space Zombies from Mars Kickstarter, through the process, I have every intention of doing like video updates. And within those updates, I think what I'll do is like, this is what I learned, during this phase of the process. And maybe people will be interested. Maybe they won't. Maybe people will learn something. Maybe they already know everything, and I'm late to the party. But that's what my 2025 is going to look like. So there you go. Yeah, that's about all I got, and we're right around an hour, which gives you plenty of time to get to the fridge, get a snack, get something to drink, have a bathroom break, stretch your legs. Maybe if you got to take the dog out, maybe you walk your cat. Maybe you got to take your cat out. I don't know. But at 3:45 Pacific time, you can go check out Brick Something over on his channel. He's doing the news. You've also got Yimbo doing his thing at 5 p.m. Pacific. You've got Geek Dad Life at 6 p.m. Pacific. There's a billion other things going on too, in the YouTube sphere of toy collecting. So pick your favorite, and settle in. As I said, happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody that celebrates it. I love this time of year, but like I said, it's crazy busy. Now, I will say this. I have every intention of actually doing an open late on Wednesday, as I normally do. So if you are, if you've got nothing else going on, Wednesday night, 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern time, I'll be hanging out. I'll be opening toys. I don't even know what I'm going to open yet. I don't know if I'm going to get toys for Christmas. I don't know if I'm going to get toys between now and Wednesday. Christmas is fun, and I like you guys enough that I want to share more time with you. So open late on Wednesday night will be happening, and it will be the last live video that I do probably for a couple weeks, but not 100% certain. But it's I enjoy hanging out with you guys, and I want to do it on Christmas Day too. So like I said, if you've got nothing going on at 8:30 on Wednesday evening, which is Christmas Day, come hang out and open toys. And bring your eggnog, and we'll hang out for a little bit. Other than that, guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you in the chat. And if you are watching on the replay, I appreciate you as well. Happy holidays to you as well. Until next time, guys, bye-bye.